The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome today. We have a very special show for you. We have actually the Peel Regional Police Force here representing with 4 of their incredible women. In recognition of International Women's Day, they will be speaking to an audience of women that are all aspiring to get into policing. For us, one of the biggest things that we've recognized is the ability for someone to go beyond the obstacles that may be set by themselves to get into their goals. And for us, the goal of policing is an incredible goal to have because you're doing so much. You're serving your community, you are helping others, you're putting your life in danger, you are a protector. And for us today, we want you to have an open mind as you listen to this podcast. There's a lot of gold nuggets in here that can help you excel and succeed and get closer to your goals. And we like to call this episode today, Women in Policing. Enjoy.
All right, welcome everyone. We are so incredibly happy to have you here and for our Women in Policing segment. This is a collaboration with Sentinel Mindset and Peel Regional Police. We are taping this to showcase at our International Women's Day. We are so glad and happy to introduce Constable Camille Chambers to come up and introduce her team and take us through what it is like to become and work as a police officer in our great city of Toronto. Thank you, Camille, and great to have you here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So again, my name is Camille Chambers. Again, call me Camille. So with me today, it's my panel. And first is Rebecca Gregoire. She's a recruiter in recruiting. And Ejam Taj, I'm just going to call her Taj today. She's a frontline officer. And Roshonda Robinson, also a frontline officer. So they're going to be a part of my panel today. So welcome. Have a seat. So this afternoon is going to be a very intimate setting. We're just going to kind of get you guys to know a little bit about us, as well as a little bit about Peel Regional Police and why you should be applying with us, not any other police service. To start, I'm just going to be putting out questions to. I'm going to be the moderator. Going to put questions out to the group. So I'll go first. So I've been a police officer for 32 years. I've worked different areas of policing, and I started out just like any other officer. When you get hired, you start out on the front line. So you're a uniform officer, just like Roshonda and Taj. You start out on the road, and then from there you can branch out. So I've worked uniform. I've worked in our fraud bureau. I've worked at the airport. I was the first female officer on the emergency task force at the airport. I've worked in our criminal investigation bureau. I've worked in youth education, crime prevention, and now I'm working in recruiting as an outreach officer. Part of my role as an outreach officer is to be out there and to find good applicants. Also associated with, we also have a female inclusion team. We are the only police service that have a female inclusion team, and what we do is basically events like this where we go out, we seek out females, we try to get the best applicant, and right here we have some of the best applicants here. And what we do is follow you through your path to become a police officer. So we're there for mentorship, we guide you along the way, we just more your support as you go through the process. So that's a little bit about myself. Rebecca?
So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Rebecca Gregoire. I've been with Peel Regional Police for about 18 years now. I currently work in recruiting. I've been in there for about a year. I've worked in a number of places. This is the great thing about this career is that there's so many different areas you can work. You're not stuck doing the same job every day. So again, I started out as frontline patrol, did that for many years. Had the opportunity to work in the high schools in our neighborhood policing unit when we had that. So that was a great opportunity to be out there in the community with youngsters and just inspiring people as well. After that, I went into the Criminal Investigative Bureau where I did a little stint in homicide as well. And then I had some kids and I had a couple maternity leaves in there and came back and worked on the road again, which was great to go back to that because I think when you get into policing, your thought is probably frontline policing. That's what you picture, right? Riding around in a police car, responding to calls. So it was nice to go back to that after I'd been on for a while. And after having kids, it really does change your perspective of things. So I did that for 2 or 3 years and then recently came into recruiting. I've been in there for a year. Recruiting's been awesome. It's been an eye-opener and it brings you back to how I felt when I was going through the process and when I got hired. Sometimes as officers, we kind of forget those feelings as we go through our career. So it really is nice to bring you back and you're working with, I'm an investigator in there, but I'm investigating good people, right? Instead of bad people. So it's nice and refreshing to see that and see really inspired people come through our system and want to work with our agency for sure, so.
Thanks, Rebecca. Taj, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
So, hi everyone. My name is Constable Duryajem Taj. I've been with Peel Regional Police for under a year. Prior to policing, I was a hairstylist. So it's a completely different career. And something about me, it's my first day on my own doing night shift today. So I'm fairly new and it's very exciting. I'm excited to see where this career takes me.
What about you, Rashonda?
Hello, everybody. My name is Constable Rashonda Robinson. Everyone just calls me Ro. Don't call me Rashonda. I'm going to think that I'm in trouble. So Ro it is. I've been a Peel Police officer for a little bit over a year, with the service for about a year and a half now. I am a frontline officer. I haven't had the opportunity to move into different departments as yet. Although this past winter holiday season, I was a part of the Festive Ride program. So that's just a program that we have with Peel that discourages people from basically drinking and driving, teaching them about the seriousness or how not to drink and drive, even though they want to enjoy their holidays. So I've been a part of that. But other than that, before I became a police officer, I worked as an industrial firefighter. And before that, I was telling them I trained dolphins. Yeah.
And you guys want to hear that story, right?
No.
We'll share that story after. Stay tuned.
Okay, so now you guys get having a little bit idea, know a little bit about us, with 4 of us, our paths so different, and it's just like yourself, your path is going to be different than the person that you're sitting next to as well. Now, Taj, when you first started, or when you decided that, I want to become a police officer, or this is the career that I want, did you have support from your family? Or were there any concern as well?
So my parents always knew that I wanted to be a police officer, and not everyone was on board. I had support from my dad's side, but my mom wasn't on board because of the dangers that come with the job. She wasn't so convinced, but it did take a bit of convincing to get her on board. But even when I didn't have the support that I wanted, I stayed focused and kept going.
So what are your mom, what is she on board now?
She's on board now, yeah. She's really proud of me now, yeah.
So when you got your badge, was she like a proud mama and just say, that's my girl?
Yeah, she's like, take all the pictures with me, yeah. She's really happy now, yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
And before I ask Rashonda, that was was the same with myself. I remember I was 15 when I was with my mom, and I mentioned to her that I want to be a police officer. And I was sitting in the backseat of our car, and she was just like, nope, you're not going to be a police officer. You're going to be a nurse. And I grew up in Scarborough, so I grew up at Midland and Finch. So some of you guys might be too young to remember this, but way back when, the 42 Division used to be at Brimley and Finch. And right next to 42 Division was the old CO Big College. So you had the 42 Division and the college right next door to each other. So you can just imagine that, 15, you're, just excited about being a police officer. You have to walk by a police station, the college as well. So you're seeing all the officers out there training and preparing for the for testing, or getting out there and going off to do their shift. So just the excitement about it all, and then just hearing my mom saying that no, that's not what you're going to be, and in my back of my head, I know that no, this is what I want to do. And I followed through on it, and I applied to Toronto. Wasn't successful twice with Toronto, and didn't discourage me. I continue at it. I went off, did something else, but in the back of my head, this is what I wanted to do. And somebody told me about, hey, try Peel, and I did. And like I said, 32 years later, here I am with Peel, still enjoying and loving the job. So again. The family, and the same thing. Graduation day down at the college, in my number one uniform, who was standing right next beside me taking pictures? My mother, right? So, the support right about the start, everybody's concerned, the fear factor and so forth. But once they know this is your dream, this is what you want to do, the support will be there. So, Rashonda, tell us about yourself. Did you have
the support? Yes. So I had a lot of support from both my parents. I'm kind of an extrovert. I like to try new things. I like things that challenge me. And I guess I worry my parents a lot, but they also support whatever decision I make, knowing and hoping that it's the best one for me. I will say that I interviewed with other services as well, and they all did their background check. And what I liked about Peel is that not only did they do their background check on myself and my family, when I passed a certain step within the interview process, the recruiter actually called and wanted to speak with my family. They spoke to my fiance and he asked, Derek Davis, said, what are your concerns? Are you worried about her? Are you worried about this and that? Well, here's what we have in place at Peel. We have people that you can talk to, people for your mental health, people that you can put on to your benefits or whatnot, or any aspect of the job that you're worried about, we have her covered. We have you covered. And that just put my mind at ease. And even though they weren't that worried, it still put their mind at ease as well. So the fact that Peel interviewed me, reached out to me, and then reached out to my family to make sure that we're going to keep her as safe as possible, that's what stood out for me. So that made them even more secure and support me into this career.
Very nice. And as a recruiter, I can say that we do that. It's important because a lot of times you want to make sure that the family's on board, because somebody may still live at home with their parents, or somebody could be very young, live on their own. But at 24, 25, a parent never stops worrying about their kids. So when I do make those phone calls or visits with family members, they really do feel a sense of relief to feel that connection, answer all those questions, reassure them that their son or daughter isn't going to be responding to calls by themselves. With Peel, we always wait for backup for certain calls. You're never going to calls that are serious by yourself. And there's always a risk out there. You can pull a car over, you never know what's going to happen, but they need to feel confident that the training they're going to get from our service before going it on their own, like Taj tonight, right? Her first night shift by herself. I think we make sure that they're confident they can do their job before we let them go and do that on their own. And family is really important. You have to have support from your family in order to be successful in this job. Not everybody's close with their family. Some people have friends that are more family to them, and that's okay. But as long as you have some sort of support network, I think that's going to really help you. Because there's other things outside of policing, right? You need to be able to talk to people, whether it's your other platoon mates after a call, or talking to friends, talking to family members. You may not want to tell them everything about it, but just to know that they're there and they're supporting you in what you're doing, and just sharing, the struggles of the job might help them understand things and make it a lot easier. And at Peel, we do have a lot of really good support networks for officers and their families. We're one of the only services, I believe, that offer up to $12,000 per person and their dependents per year to access mental health resources. So counseling, therapy, anything you may need or your family members may need to get through this. Because with this job, you never know what each day is going to bring and how it's going to affect you. It might affect you now, might affect you 6 months, 6 years from now, but family is really important. So we went off on a tangent.
That's okay. That's what we're here for. Now, you like Rebecca mentioned about with the different struggles and stuff that you might run into. Rashonda, like you're a fairly new officer, just been on a little bit over a year. Have you faced any struggles on the job or away from the job since you've been hired?
Yes and no. I say that because a lot of it, the struggles that I face are mostly seeing things that I never thought I would come across. Some scenes you go to or you attend, you see things that the average person does not see day to day. And that one scene, you might see another scene on your next shift tomorrow, which is just as bad or even worse. And so being able to talk to people, family, friends, or even your platoon mate, knowing when it's a good time to take that stuff home and, unload it there or unpack it there, or when to leave it to work, was a challenge for me at first. Even still, a couple of weeks ago, some scenes that I saw, you play it over and over and over in your head, and you have to know how to balance or be strong enough to not let that affect the next call you go to. Could be the same one, but every day is different, every call is unique, and you have to treat it that way. So I think what I struggle mostly with is sometimes taking some scenes home and not knowing how to leave them at work.
Mm-hmm. And it's just that I think everybody has to learn how to deal with things like that. Just the whole idea of saying leave it at the door, and tomorrow's a new day. Pick it up when you get back to work, because you have to separate the two, your work life and your home life, and it's hard, but you have to try to separate the two so it doesn't interfere in your family life. But those are things as you get, like I said, Rashonda's been on for a little over a year. As time goes on, she'll learn and call a different, just talking to other officers who've been through the same thing as well. She'll learn different ways in how to deal with these different issues that she's going through.
It's definitely something that comes with time, for sure, how to deal with it. And
So one of the biggest problems as females that we have is, and just quickly, I was talking to a few of you outside, and you have the school background, and you've did police foundation or criminology at school, and it might be a case where after you complete the program, and then it's just like, okay, you know what, I'm not ready right now. I want to go off and do something else in the meantime. And so as females, we procrastinate. Like we put off doing certain things. And I'm sure if you say to yourself, in my police foundation class, there was 10 or 15 males in my class. And you check now, and there's probably about a good chunk of them are now in a police service somewhere. And you're still haven't made that step yet. Because guys, they're just like, when they want something, they just go ahead and do it. And with females, we just take the long way around before we actually do what we need to do. And that's part of like, I'll get you're gonna be hearing this word quite a bit, the female inclusion team. That's what our job is as part of the team, and Rebecca is also a part of the female inclusion team, is that we try to keep you on that straight line, okay? And then whenever you start to go this way, well, I kind of need to do this first. So we kind of bring you back. Nope, keep you on the path and make sure that you're following through and doing exactly what you need to do to become an officer. So let's just quickly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the steps that you need to, the check marks that you need to make sure that it's the boxes are checked before you're ready to apply. So you want to, again, do your research, okay? Find out as much as you can about Peel Regional Police. You can go onto our website, take a look at our website there. If you're not familiar with the region, Peel, we cover Brampton and Mississauga. If you've never been out there, just take a cruise around, drive around, go out there, see what it's all about. We're a very diverse region. And that's one of the big draw with our service is that we want to reflect our community. So if that's something that you're looking for to be in a diverse area, then Peel is the service that you want to be a part of. So you want to do your research about the service that you want to apply to. The first next step you want to do is you want to go on to oacpcertificate.ca. That's the new website that you have to use. Before we used to have ATS. ATS doesn't exist anymore. So OACP certificate is the new police testing. So you want to go on there, go through their website. They kind of walk you through the process of what needs to be done in order to get your certificate. Once you complete, there's different steps that you have to do. You download your vision and your hearing form, and then you have to get that completed. You do the testing, and then after about a week or so, they send you the certificate. The plus with OACP, it's not a pass-fail. So when you complete it, you receive your certificate. You don't get your marks. It just gives you now the ability that you can now apply to any police service. Where in the past with ATS, until you actually pass the testing, you can't even put your foot in the door to a police service. So now it's made it a lot easier for people to get that face-to-face with a police service. And it might be a case where, you know what, you have a glowing resume, but that glowing resume would never been seen before. Now you can have that sit down with that police service, have that connection with them, and they can actually process your application from there. So once you have your OACP certificate, so some of the stuff that we look for in a good applicant, again, we don't want to see you applying to 3 or 4 or 5 different police services. Just again, this is a part where I said do your research on where you want to work, and then apply to that particular service. Once you have that piece there, we also encourage people to do volunteer work. With COVID, I know it's a lot harder to get out there and try to get volunteer work, but one of the big things with the pandemic is that there's so many people struggling with their mental health. So a lot of community services are offering assistance in that piece there, and they're always looking for volunteers. So look at that piece there. Food banks they're another good place to do some volunteer work.
Crisis lines,
Yep.
sorry to interject, but
That's okay.
victim services, crisis lines, kids help phone, those are all good volunteering resources. You do have to have much more of a commitment than, say, volunteering at a food bank for that. And you do have to undergo some training, but the skills that you're going to get there, answering calls on a crisis line, are transferable skills that you can use in this career, right? We're always dealing with mental health in this job and trying to de-escalate suicidal people, talk to suicidal people, people with mental health issues. This is a great experience for you. So it is a commitment, but with volunteering, choose something that you're interested in, I think. Because it's your free time that you're spending, right? It doesn't matter if you're volunteering at 10 different places or 1. Are you committed to that place you're volunteering, and are you making a difference and getting good skills for that? So a lot of people have made excuses because of COVID that they're not accepting volunteers. I think that's going away now. You're going to see things open up. But sometimes you just need to be creative, right? If you're not finding a lot of places that are open for volunteers, you just have to look a bit harder because they are out there.
Yeah, and you just let Google be your friend, right? Just Google community services in your area, and you'll get a list of different places, and all you do is just start making some phone calls. And a lot of times, too, I find that if you say to them, I'm interested in the career in policing, and I just want to do some volunteer work, I've seen that they've also will help you out in that piece there as well. Though we don't want to look at, well, maybe I'll volunteer at the animal shelter. Okay, we want to see that volunteer work, you're dealing with people. We want to, furry little friends and so forth, that's great, but we would rather see that the volunteer piece is dealing with the human race.
Look at it as an opportunity for you to maybe your job that you're doing now, maybe you're not dealing with crisis situations or de-escalation situations, or you're not dealing with a certain aspect of society who maybe isn't as fortunate as some others. So maybe you're not going to change your job, but this is a great opportunity to get some other experience, right? What other skills can you gain? Because maybe you're not getting that in your current job. But look at it as a way to always continuously improve, to be really competitive in the process to become a police officer. Yeah.
So, and then it's if you're looking at becoming a cadet, our cadets are between the age of 19 to 22. Sometimes we extend it to 23 or 24 just to give you that more experience. Because it might be that you're finishing university, you've never really had a job because school was so much that you weren't able to do some. So we'll give you that experience of being a cadet before we actually put you forward as a constable. For a cadet, you have to have your G2 driver's license, and for a constable, you have to have your full G license to be an officer. So again, like I said, you want to have your certificate. Once you have your certificate in hand, and again, you also want to make sure that you've been working on your fitness, because you have to do a fitness test. So I just want to show of hands of anybody who's been exposed to the prep test. Okay, so more or less everyone's been exposed to the prep test. Okay, so that's going to be one of the criteria that you have to complete when you apply. I know, again, same thing with COVID. It's been hard to get into the gym, but again, places are opening up again to get out there. We haven't had the nicest weathers for you to get out there and pound the pavement, but when the opportunity is there, you want to get your cardio and your fitness back up. And for those that don't know, with the prep test, you do a circuit, and you have to complete the circuit in 2 minutes and 37 seconds or less. 2 minutes and 38 is a fail. Okay, and then you're given a 15-minute break, and after the 15-minute break, then you do the shuttle run. And you have to achieve a level 7 on the shuttle run. What we do with Peel is that, again, we're a very competitive police service. The 7 is a standard for the prep test, but we let you run it to your max. So if you are a runner and you want to go to level 9, level 10, okay, again, it's going to show the recruiters that your fitness level when you do that. Mm-hmm. So after you complete the prepped, and you've been successful with that piece there, your file will be assigned to one of our recruiters in our office. And like I said, Rebecca is one of our recruiters. So Rebecca, what are some of the qualifications that as a recruiter that you look for in a good applicant?
I'd say first and foremost is their work history. And when I say that, it doesn't have to be specific to policing. So it doesn't have to be security. Obviously, that's great if it is. But it doesn't have to be. Like, look at Taj. She was involved in hairdressing before she started pursuing this career. So obviously, your recruiter felt like you had some other skills that you could bring to the job, right? Yeah. And that's the most important thing. Have you been having gainful employment? Have you been at the same place for a while? Or have you had 20 different jobs that you work at for 6 months and then go to another job? We ask for your reason for why you left the company on your application. And sometimes you can see right through it, right? If they say it wasn't a good fit for me, or there was a conflict with my coworker, or just, didn't work with my shifts. Like, you can just see that they don't have that strong work ethic, and you need that to get into this profession. So we're always looking for that. Security is great, but I always tell people, make sure the security work that you're doing is meaningful and giving you good skills that you're going to be able to apply to this job. There are a lot of security jobs around that you guys are familiar with, that you're just driving around in a car and checking on buildings, industrial areas to make sure everything's fine. You're not interacting with people. You're not dealing with different types of situations. So I often tell people to just make sure you're doing the right type of security work. Hospital security is great. What you guys are doing here, it sounds like you have amazing opportunities to really work on those skills. Mall security, loss prevention, those are going to make you interact with the public and get those skills that you need. So definitely work history is important. we're going to call your references and we're going to speak to your coworkers, your supervisors, people that you don't necessarily list on your application, because the people you're listing as your references, they're not going to say anything bad about you probably. So we call those, but we also want to do some digging on our own to really find out the true story, right? So we're going to find out what your work ethic is, if you're falling asleep on the job, if you're late continuously. Those are all things that you should be doing in your day-to-day life right now, because it could come back to bite you down the road, right? It may not be something that you did in the last 6 months, but maybe 3 years ago you worked somewhere and you just didn't get along with people, or you were late all the time and you got fired. We're going to find that out. So definitely good work ethic and stuff is super important. We want to see that you're passionate about this. So maybe what have you been doing to work towards this career, right? Maybe you took this in school, police foundations or criminology. Again, you don't have to take those things. If it interests you, great. But to show that you're just continuously trying to improve on yourself, to make yourself competitive, like we talked about the volunteering, think outside the box, think of things that you can do to make yourself competitive and to get different skills and things, right? So those are things that stand out for sure. Professionalism is key, and I say that because it applies to all aspects of the application process. When you come in for your fitness testing, we do give you a guideline as to what is appropriate attire, especially for females. Keep it simple. Don't be wearing your short little booty shorts. Not appropriate, right? You want to be professional and not too revealing, professional setting. So that's one aspect of it. Professionalism when you're corresponding with anybody, an outreach officer, recruiter, you should always be, professional, calling them by their last name. If I sign an email, Constable Gregoire, I don't want somebody to reply to me and say, "Hi, Rebecca," right? Those are little things that, we may get to the point someday where we're going to be on a first name basis. But at this point, you need to just keep that professionalism. And those people stand out to us, the people who are professional, who, if they've had an interaction with myself or somebody else, maybe I've had a phone call with an applicant, will follow up with an email. "Thanks for speaking with me today. I'll take your advice. I'll do this." Just keeping that connection going. It really shows that you're motivated, and we want people like that who aren't going to wait for us to come to them, who show that they're motivated, they're willing to do whatever it takes to get into this profession and are open to advice. And take it. So that's really important. When you come in for your interview, everybody here is dressed very nicely today, very professional. It stands out because oftentimes when we go to information sessions, people look like they've just rolled out of bed, okay? Yes, a lot of our virtual sessions, they're online. I get it, we're not in person, but there are a few that come looking like they're interview ready. They're in a suit, they're in a dress shirt, their hair's done nicely. Yes, it's virtual, but those people stand out to us. So you always want to stand out. So when you're coming in for your uniform, suit, appropriate footwear, keep your makeup to a minimum. Put your hair back in a ponytail, because in the job, we don't wear our hair down on this job. So start looking the part, right? We are here today, we don't have red nail polish on our nails. We don't have huge earrings in our ears. We have uniform standards within our police service, and it's good for you to start mimicking those when you're in the application process, for sure. And again, those are things that stand out to us because not everybody does it. So that really does go a long way. And it's really important for us to know that you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into with this job. So if you have people that you've spoken to who are on the job already, maybe you can have a reference of a police officer. You've done some volunteer work to show that you're sort of thinking outside the box and trying to get different skills. Those are all things that are going to show that you're prepared for the job and you know what to expect. Because I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that people think policing is a certain way when it's really not. I don't know if you guys can speak to anything about what you thought, what it was going to be like getting into the job, and now reality's hit. You're on your own. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind of something that's different? Taj, what do you think?
Honestly, I thought that once I get hired, going through all the training, once I'm on my own, I'll be able to tackle any call. I'll know it. I'll know everything I need to know about the job, but obviously being on the road, being with my coach officers every single day and every single call, I'm learning something new. And I came to realize that for the next 30 years, I'm going to be learning, and it's going to be a huge learning curve, especially for the first few years of my career. And honestly, it gets overwhelming at times. So just knowing that, just mentally be prepared for that. Yeah.
And what was my thought process there?
What
Sorry,
about you,
go ahead.
Rashonda?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Same, snowballing of what she said. Every single day is different. So, and every call is different. So I guess for me, when I first came into this career, I was under the mindset after training for it, you're set up to succeed at all times. You have teachers and your training, they put together certain scenarios, and you go to the scenario and they say, this guy has a knife, and deal with him and talk to him. And you talk to him and you're like, yes, crushed it. And then you get on the job and you get a call and they're like, this guy have a knife. And you're like, no, what do I do now? You know, but like she said, there's always a 78, which is you have another coworker with you, another officer, and you talk things through. You learn on the spot. You have to be adaptable because certain situations you have to be able to learn on the spot. So you get the tools when you come into the career, but again, you have to be able to use those tools and then create tools of your own to know how to deal with people in different situations. So that was big for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you could be on the job 2-3 years and come across something you've never come across before. And that maybe you have to go look up the directive on that one, talk to your coworkers, find out how to deal with this. Because again, the information's all there. You just got to find it, right? Exactly. For me, I remember being on the road, if you're going to a call, and your coach officers probably taught you this as well, that you're always thinking on your way there, okay, what information do I have? What do I need to do? You know, where should I set up? Making a plan as best as you can, because you can only plan so much, and then you can get there and it's a totally different situation, and you have to adapt, right? But that's something I always did, and it really helps you calm down and just think about what you need to do on the way to that call, because oftentimes we get these hot calls and we want to get there as fast as we can, and our heart rate's going, and it's really important to just do some breathing and try and slow down and try and figure out what your steps are going to be as you get there, and then you'll be able to deal with it a lot better for sure. And waiting for your 78, right? That's huge. I'll just go off on a tangent here, but like being a female on this job, Rashonda's a lot tougher than me, I can tell you that right now. Or Ro, sorry, not Rashonda. I don't want to get you in trouble.
That's okay. That's okay.
But we're all different sizes, right? Females. And yes, we all have to pass the fitness test to get on the job, but we're all trained and we all have the tools on our tool belt to use if we need to, right? So I know that if I'm faced with a situation, in some situations your partner's not there yet, and sometimes you can wait, but sometimes you can't, and sometimes things change just like that, right? So you have to always be prepared, and I know that I'm not going to be able to fight a 250-pound, 6'10" guy, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to use my tools and do as best as I can. I'm not going to give up, right? You just have to be prepared for that as a female. So if you're having doubts because of your size or whatnot, we have females who are tiny little things. We have girls that are like taller than some of the guys on the shift. Like we all have different bodies, right? And strengths and stuff. So I think a lot of it is your confidence and knowing what tools you have and using our voice and speaking. And I think as females, we do that really well. That's a skill that we have. Sometimes going to a call with a bunch of guys, just having a female presence can really change the dynamic. If I go to a call and two of my guy partners are there, and the testosterone's flowing in the room, right? Like you can just see that fight's about to happen, and sometimes it's just a matter of taking them aside and me stepping in, talking to them in a different way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but oftentimes it'll de-escalate the situation. So, but you always have to be prepared for things to go offside, and you got to be able to hold your own. And your parents are worried about the dangers of the job. There are dangers in this job. But I think if you just focus on your training and don't get complacent with each call, that's really important, because you may think I've been to this situation, this kind of call all the time, but you just don't know what's going to happen at that call. Things can change very quickly, right? So it's a really important thing not to become complacent in this job.
And to add to that there, Like I said before, 32 years ago, policing for females anyways, was a lot different than what it is now. Like we have way more females on the job now, which is amazing. And we're just going to continue to grow on that piece there. But when I started, it was a boys' club. And you, as a female, you show up and, you have your 78 at calls. But a lot of the times, the guys was like, you know what? You want to do this job? Go ahead, do the job. So a lot of time you have to fend for yourself. So you learn early on that, you know what? I need to, to fit in. At the same time, I need to be able to defend myself and be safe. So for what I did was back then, I was big into workout. I used to work out nonstop. So I would do my night shift, and 7 o'clock in the morning, I was at the gym until 9 o'clock in the morning. So I would be 2 hours at the gym. And then before I go in for a night shift, I'd be another hour at the gym. So that was what I felt I needed to do to fit in to the boys' club. And I did get the respect. There was times where some of the guys would say, you know what, I want you to 78 me on my calls. Which, at the time, it's like, now you think about it now, it's like, but back then, it was just like, you feel really good. Like, oh, okay, he's picking me over that guy. So, but these are the things as a female, you had to do to fit into the boys' club. And now with more females on the job, it's again, you just adapt to what's around you. And the biggest piece is communication. You don't have to go into a bar, and if there's a call for a bar fight, that, okay, I got to go in there, I got to have my pepper spray or my ass baton out. A lot of it is just communication, just talking to someone. Sometimes you can talk them down off the ledge, and you don't have to go to any form of force. So that piece there, and again, as you get more experience on the job, you learn to use that bigger tool, which is the communication skills, to do a lot of the work for you. So it's just different things that you learn to do as females. It's just, again, it's what works for you.
Don't try and be somebody you're not. Right?
Exactly.
Be yourself.
Exactly. Be yourself, and just put your best foot forward. It's like I said, just talking a little bit about with the prep tests. Okay, we don't lower the standards for females. It's a standard is right across the board for males and females, and it doesn't matter if, how tall you are, how short you are, it's the same standard. So you just have to know ahead of time, okay, this is the standard that I have to achieve, and you do what it takes to get to that standard. And I'm just going to put this question to Taj, because again, you have a smaller stature as a female officer. What did you do to prepare for the prep test?
So I actually began my journey into policing end of 2018 when I attended an information session like you ladies over here. So I attended a prep session. It was back in the day we used to have the practice prep sessions with Peel. So I attended one of those, and I found that I was spending a lot of time on the arm restraint. I found it very difficult at the time, and I knew that policing is something I always wanted to do, and it was a goal I wanted to conquer, and I didn't want the arm restraint to get in the way of that. So I actually got personal trainers, and I would go to the gym every single day, Monday to Friday, whether it was snowing, raining, whether I felt sick, or whether I wanted to go or not. I was so dedicated to it, and I even started going to the gym twice a day, which I don't recommend in the beginning because you're going to burn yourself out very quickly, and that's what I did. But I found that having personal trainers, they were able to really help me achieve my goal. The arms restraint, it was really messing with my head. I'm like, I want to be able to do this. Why am I not being able to do this? And turns out I was just not incorporating grip strengthening exercises. So when I started incorporating farmers carries and all those exercises, I was able to pass it no problem. And even after you pass it in your application process, keep up your fitness because you're going to have to do it again in pre-OPC, at OPC, post-OPC. So it doesn't stop. And then even when you're on the road, you might have to get into a foot pursuit or you might have to save your life or your partner's life. So fitness is very important. And if you don't like cardio, like you better start loving it because it's very important in this job. And when I was at OPC, I actually read a quote on the wall and it actually really hit me. It said that once you choose law enforcement, you give the right to be unfit. And that's very important because not only are you protecting yourself, you're protecting the public, you're protecting your partners, and you want to make sure you can make it home at the end of the day, right? So whatever your goal is, if you guys have tried the prep test and there's something that you're struggling on, keep working at it because as long as you keep going, you'll be able to pass no problem.
Yeah, the test is attainable. It's not something that's like, oh my God, it's impossible to pass. You have to be fit. You got to put in the work. The shuttle run, I think, is where a lot of people fall short.
Yes.
The circuit, if you're in generally good shape, you're pretty athletic, I think you'll be able to do the pursuit restraint circuit, no problem. It's the shuttle run where people fall short because that really tests your cardio. And if you're not doing the right type of workouts, cardio-wise, you're not going to do well in that. So with us, we do our own fitness testing at Peel. Once you put your application in, we have a facility where we have it all set up, the whole prep test. And not every service is lucky enough to have that. And we're fortunate that we're able to do that because I know some other services have to rely on just the shuttle run, but you are tested at OPC on the prep. So if you've had no exposure to it and you're hired, I've seen people who have not been successful in passing OPC because of the prep. But again, I think that goes back to your whole mindset of like, if you really want to do it, you put in the effort and you get it done, you can do it. It's attainable. You just got to really find out the right exercises to do. And a lot of it is technique too. You came to a practice session, right, Taj?
Yeah.
And you said that helped you a lot. And
we
were chatting earlier. Yeah. So we do offer the female practice sessions for people who are in our application process, who haven't had any exposure to the prep before. So we'll have them come in and our fitness instructor will walk them through each component of the fitness test, try out each of the machines. A lot of the machines, you do have to have strength to use them, but a lot of it is changing your technique and just changing the way you put your hand on the machine or the way you position your body. It can really make a difference in making it a little easier, and it'll shed some time off of your circuit time. So people really find that beneficial who come through our program, and then we run them through the shuttle run to just gauge where they're at with their fitness, because the shuttle run doesn't lie. The shuttle run will tell you whether you're out there running or not. And I can tell you right now that you can't just go for a couple jogs around the block a couple times a week and expect to get a level 7 in the shuttle. You need to be doing a variety of workouts like HIIT workouts, interval training, long distance runs. You should really be running at least 3 times a week and continuously doing those different types of workouts to see an improvement in that. So, but it's not unattainable.
Yeah. I'll touch on that as well. I just completed it, like I said, 1.5 years ago. I'm a natural weightlifter. I lift weights. So I'm in the gym with guys lifting heavier than because I do competitions as well. But I got an email, I remember, from Camille, Constable Chambers, and she said to me, COVID's going on, send me a video of you doing the shuttle run. So here I'm thinking, I can do pull-ups and push-ups and shuttle run. Okay, set up the beep test. I think I got to level 4 at first, but I didn't give up. I passed it to level 7, but I got to level 4, and as I'm running back and forth doing the shuttle, I'm thinking, why do I need to do this? I'm strong, but it's all about cardio. It's a mind game as well that the beep test plays on you. You run this thing, and I think it's about 68 beeps, and every beep, it gets faster. And you hear this beep, and you're like, oh my God, I want to get done this. And your calves start burning at level 4.5, and you're thinking, I thought I was at level 6. But I would say one of the most important things, like they talk about when trying to become a police officer, confidence, one of the top things, but cardio and circuit training, cardio balance with strength training, extremely important because like Constable Tash said, you do this test, you pass and you get an interview. And like myself, I was like, yes, I have the interview. And then I got an email the day before we showed up and they said, you're doing the test tomorrow. And then I got to OPC and they said, you're doing the test to pass. And then I think I got back to post, like she said, and they're like, oh, we're doing the test next week again. And I'm thinking, can I get rid of that beep test? The answer is no, because I've been an officer now for over a year. And I think it's in April, I have to go back because we have to do our PIN test. So this job requires you to show up fit and remain fit. It's important, like she said, to be there for your partner. You want that person that 78's you or that comes to your rescue to be in a position to help you. You also want to show up in a position to help somebody else. So fitness, extremely important in this job. So I'll just say that cardio, you might hate it, put on your favorite show, but run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing with Peel that we offer is, sometimes females come through our process and they're not successful in passing the fitness test the first time. If you come in and you're not successful, we don't want people to just walk away and their file's closed and we don't hear from them again. We don't want to lose those people because if their file is good, and I'm talking about females specifically, so a female who comes through our process and comes in for the fitness testing, maybe she passes the circuit and doesn't pass the shuttle, maybe she gets a level 5, 5.5, and she has a competitive file. We don't want to just close the door on them. So we're going to keep their file open and we're going to give them some mentorship through the FIT team and have them come back in 2-3 months, whatever our fitness advisor recommends, and have them come back in. And again, it goes back to putting in the work. We see some girls who come back in, they get that invitation and they're not successful. So we know that they haven't been putting in the work, and we don't want somebody like that who's not gonna take this opportunity and put in the hard work that needs to be done. And then we've had girls who have come back and passed it. So don't worry so much about the fitness test. Please gauge yourself on your fitness before you apply. I really urge that to people. We do get a lot of applicants that come through, specifically females, who I think really have no clue what they're walking into, and they can't even get a level 2 in the shuttle. And a level 2 is a pretty fast walk, right? And it's not to discourage people, but just do your research. It all goes back to that, doing your research and finding out what the job entails and what the requirements are. On our social media page, we're always giving tips on fitness and things that you can do to improve. Obviously, you can't set up the pursuit restraint circuit in your gym or anything like that, but you can do certain exercises that might help you improve on certain parts of it. You can set up the shuttle run on your own. You can go to a parking lot and measure a 20-meter distance, which is the length of the shuttle run, and you can access the audio online. It's called the Leger Shuttle Run Audio. There are a few different variations out there, so just make sure you're doing the right one. The one that we use is Leger, it's Leger. And you can test yourself and just gauge where you're at, right, before you put that application in. So you're not going to be disappointed when you come in and don't pass. And those are the people we want, who do the research, put in the effort, test themselves, and make sure they're ready when they apply. And if for some reason you're not successful, it's not going to be the end of the world. We're going to work with you. And do you want to talk about our FIT 6-week program that we have?
Oh, you go ahead, because since you're part of it, yeah.
So we were able to just start this program back up, and it's for females who come through our system and don't pass the prep the first time but have competitive files. We're going to train you. We're going to give you workouts from our Mr. Mallon is our fitness instructor at Peel, and he will develop workouts for the females to do for over a week period. And then we meet once a week. They've been coming to our facility over the last 3 weeks, thankfully. We were doing it virtual for a while, and that's not quite the same, but last night I just did a workout yesterday evening with, there's about 20 girls in our program, and they come once a week, and it's a way for us to really mentor them, get to know the females. You can really tell a lot about people when you see them interact as a team, and you just get to know them on a different level and hopefully give them some guidance on the fitness, and they will be retested on the prep at the end of the program, and hopefully we'll see some successes. Not everybody will pass, I can tell you that right now. Some people won't be putting in the effort and the work that needs to be done. And, all we can do is give them the opportunities, right? So we'll see what happens. But even if we get 2 or 3 good females out of this program, then it's a success. So instead of us closing the door on them after not passing their fitness and losing them to another service or, just crushing their dreams, basically, sometimes people just need to be instructed on the right types of workouts, and a little bit of encouragement goes a long way. So So we just started that up. Hopefully it's going to be a success. But again, that plays with the whole female inclusion team. You know, this is a profession where we don't get as many female applicants as we do males. And our service would love to have 50-50 females in each recruit class that we hire. It's definitely a challenge to get because we just don't get as many applicants. There's not as many females interested in this profession. It's still a male-dominated profession. But we want to try and encourage more females, good, competent females, to consider this as a career for sure.
And then, like Rebecca mentioned, that with the 6 weeks, like we started the 6 weeks back in 2020, so just before COVID hit. And the night that they declare a pandemic was the last night for the girls to that was their test night. They were going to get tested on the prep test, and the ones that were successful would have moved on in the process. And unfortunately, we had to cancel it that night. But just to go show how some female that you're just determined and they know that this is what I want to do. There's one female there's a couple females. There's actually one just got hired yesterday. And again, like I said, she did the program back in 2020 and she wasn't successful and continue on. You know, she had to improve her fitness and came back in the process this year. And she just went to the hiring board yesterday and got hired as an officer. Another female where after the 6 weeks program back in 2020, she realized that, you know what, my fitness is not where it should be. And she withdrew her application from the system because she basically said, I wanted to make sure that when I applied, I was ready. And she went, worked on herself, She came in last week to do the practice prep. And like Rebecca was there and she can test that, you know what, she was successful. And then she's coming in hopefully next week to do the full test. And so again, it's just a matter of that, you know, she realized that, you know, I'm not ready yet. I need to do some more training. And then once she was ready, then resubmitted her application. So you will know when you're ready. Okay, we can't tell you. We can say, you know what? Yeah, I would love to get you into the April class or the September class, but you will know when you're ready. And when that time comes, that's when you're going to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to submit my application. I'm going to get my OCP certificate. I'm going to contact Rebecca or Camille. You're going to contact one of us so we can, again, keep you on that path and make sure that you're doing the right thing, and then you were able to get you hired. Again, we're only helping you. You have to do the work. You have to put the work in to get that final result of being hired.
It's that self-awareness piece, like just recognizing, you know, are you ready with the work experience, the life experience you have? Because sometimes we have females who go through our process, and if they're really good and competitive, the process can go very quickly. And the first year on the job, like your training and everything, it's a very intense year. So you need to be ready and prepared to take that on, and that's going to be your priority for the next year and a half. All the training you're going to go through. So you got to make sure everything's good in your personal life, that you have a really good understanding of what the job entails and what you're getting yourself into. So to do that, I would encourage you to talk to any police officers you may come across, any contacts you may make, just to find out, like, hey, talk to me, what's it really like out there day-to-day as a police officer, right? It may be different than what you think. What's the training like? What's it like going to OPC? It's definitely intense, and you have to be ready for that. And if you're not ready for the fitness, we've had some people come through and aren't successful. Your file's only closed for 6 months if it's just related to fitness. So some people usually need about 6 months to work on their fitness to get to where they need to be. But we also encourage people who aren't successful, those people that come in and get a level 2. It's a real eye-opener to those females when they come in. But we don't want them to leave disgruntled and thinking, oh, this is never for me. Because again, don't ever give up. If this is you're passionate about this and you want to put in the work, this can happen for you. So sometimes it's an eye-opener, and we just tell people to withdraw their application if they want at that point. Then you can reapply whenever you feel like you're ready. You're not limited to a timeline, a 6-month or a 1-year file closure. You can apply apply when you're ready. And some people put in the hard work and they're ready 2 months after that. Some people, it takes them another year. Everybody's different, but it's just being self-aware and doing the research and finding out what the requirements are and really testing yourself and making sure you're ready. Because when you apply, recruiters are there watching you do your fitness testing. And, it's kind of embarrassing sometimes if you go in and you can't move the machines. We tell you when you apply and you get your fitness invitation to come, there is a breakdown of like how much weight you're pushing on each machine, right? So why don't you go to the gym and try picking up 70 pounds and bench pressing it and see if you can do that, right? If you don't do those things, then you're not really doing your research into the job and what it entails. And I think that's really important because you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste our time too. We want to encourage females to get into this profession, but you guys have to do the work on your end as well.
So Taj, I know you have a little one at home.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do you balance your work and your life? How do you balance both?
So it wasn't easy at first. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so going to OPC was actually very challenging because we do get the weekends off to go home and spend time with our family, but my daughter wasn't in the country at that time. She was with her father on vacation, and she actually got stuck there because of COVID, so I wasn't able to see her for the whole 3 months. So that was very, very challenging for me, but now that I'm on my shift work schedule, I find it a lot more manageable. And honestly, the 4 days off, it's a lot of time. And sometimes it falls during the week, sometimes it's during weekend as well. So it gives me an opportunity to be a lot more involved in her school as well. Like if there's like a presentation that she wants me to attend, I'm able to attend it, because if you're working Monday to Friday 9 to 5, you might not always be there for your kid when they have those presentations at work or they're performing something, right? So I find it really nice to have those 4 days off, spending time with family and friends, and it's amazing. Yeah.
I think shift work has its pluses and minuses, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to not be working with or out in the public, on the weekend trying to get all your errands done. It's nice to have those days off during the week. But night shift, that's not easy, right?
I honestly prefer night shift.
Do you?
I'm more of
Me
a night
too.
person.
Oh, okay.
If I could do 4 nights in a row, I would do it 100%.
I hated nights.
So for me, I went back to the road after having kids. So I didn't have kids when I started, and then through my career I have had children, and recently was back on the road. So that was my first time doing shift work with kids, and that is not easy because, you have to still be a mom and you have responsibilities of getting your kids to school and juggling your partner's work schedule and trying to cram some sleep in there. It's not easy. It's very stressful sometimes, but you figure it out and you rely on your village, on your family, on your friends, and you got to make it work because there's no option to not go to work, right? So it's not easy. I was lucky getting into this job. I didn't have kids yet. So I think that is for sure a challenge, having kids already, getting into this profession, and making sure if you have a partner that they're on board as well, because, your training is really going to be your priority. I mean, family is always number one in this job. That's the most important thing, that you go home at the end of the night, family comes first. But in your training, you really have to focus on getting trained and being ready and being able to go out there and do your job properly. And sometimes, family does have to take a little bit of a back seat, or you have to do that juggling act, and it's not easy. But if you are thinking about getting into this profession and you do have children, I think you just got to make sure to have those conversations with your family and make sure that, you have that village, you have that support, because, your priority on a 12-hour shift is working. And sometimes you can't always answer the phone call if you're getting a call from home, or you have to end your call quickly because you have a call coming in, or you're stuck on overtime. Again, you have to be adaptable in this job because you don't know what your day is going to be like, right? So I think that's really important, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's the start of your career. Everyone starts out on the road, so it's nothing like what you see on TV. You know, you graduate from the police college, and you know you're in a detective office, and you're working a homicide case. Okay, so it's everyone puts in their time on the road, and usually it could be anywhere from 3 to 4 years. There's other officers that's been on the road a lot longer because they're enjoying it, and that's where you're going to learn a good chunk of your police skills is being out there on the road, and then from there you can branch off into different areas of policing. Into one of our investigative bureaus, you can work with crime prevention or recruiting office, and there are some departments and the schedules are all different in different bureaus. So after you put your time in, and if it's a case where, like we taught, you want to balance that family life. There are bureaus or areas or straight days that you can apply to get into that area. But at the start, you have to do your shift work on the road. And
I'd say there's definitely more spots that are more shift work than day shifts, I think. So
yeah. Plus, just knowing that that's the option is there for that later on. It's
but in the beginning, you're on the road. That's what you've signed up to do is be a frontline officer, and that's the core of this job. And be prepared to do that for a while before you start. It's great to have ideas of places you want to go. And Ro, you were mentioning today about some areas that you're interested in after being on for a year and a half, and everybody finds things that they're interested in. That's the great thing about this job is you don't have to do the same thing all the time. Not everybody is going to be an investigator. Not everybody's going to be interested in drugs and all that stuff. Somebody may be interested in traffic or more of the community aspect. There's just so many different careers within this career, which is what I think makes this job so amazing. Yeah.
So, Rashonda, it's wrapping things up. So, what advice would you give our female friends here today?
For those of you, all of you here interested, but the advice that I would give you is to be confident. And again, I cannot harp on fitness. Make sure you're fit for this job, physically and mentally. The reason I say that is because, like, Taj is going on her own tonight for the first time. This job also plays a mental game on you. And when I say that, I mean you get into situations where you have to be able to think on the fly. You have to be adaptable. You have to be confident and know what you're saying and knowing what you're doing. You have to be able to read the situation, listen to what the community is telling you in depth. Take an in-depth listen and look at what they're telling you and be able to respond in a way that's going to keep you safe and get your job done. So if you're interested in policing, again, fitness is important, confidence is important. That's what I would tell you.
Rebecca?
I think I would say don't give up. Don't let somebody tell you can't do this job, because I think I see a lot of females that come through my office who are smaller in stature, and when I ask them what do you think is going to be your challenge, a lot of times it's about their physical size and everything. And like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be this huge muscular person to do this job. We all have different skills and abilities, so don't let that deter you, and don't let somebody tell you can't do this job because you're a female, because females bring a lot of awesome things to this job, and a lot of times we do the job better than some guys in certain situations, right? Everybody has different skills, and if you're not successful the first time, don't let that deter you. Let that passion shine through, and just try adapt and think, okay, what else do I need to do? How can I make myself more competitive? And if you're strong inside, then I think you'll get there eventually, and you can do it.
Okay, so that's kind of wrap up our presentation there. So we're just going to open up to the floor for if you guys have any question at all.
If anybody has a question, just put your hand up, and then I think Beata will come by with the mic. So the background check is a look into you and your family members and your past. So when you apply, you have to disclose all your family members, even brother and sister-in-laws, things like that, roommates you may have. So we're checking to make sure that they don't have any involvement with the police negatively, any criminal affiliations, things like that. We're also contacting, schools you went to, any work that you've been involved in, to see what your work performance was like as well, and just to make sure that you're a good fit for the job, right? So if some people are worried because maybe some of their family members have had negative, dealings with the police, you can't always choose your family members. We understand that. It's just a matter of us determining what that involvement was, how close is it to you, is it going to affect you if you do get on the job. So it's not the end of the world. It's something that can be explored and worked through, and it's not necessarily going to prevent you from getting hired. Just be very open and honest about everything that you do know. Sometimes you may think that there is a family member who does have some dealings with the police. Maybe you don't know the full story. Just disclose as much as you can, and then we can do the investigation on our end to make sure. So.
Hi, my name is Lashana. I served with the Jamaica Constabulary Force for 9 years. After training, which is like 6 months, we were given a probationary period of 2 years where we had to accomplish a certain quota. Like we had to do a certain amount of arrests, cases before the court, and issue traffic tickets in order to pass our probationary period to move on. On your website, it says that you have different classes, like classes of constables, 4th to 1st class. How long does it take to move through those different classes? In order to move from like a 1st class constable, I think the next rank is a sergeant. Is there like an entry exam that you have to do in order to move to that level?
Do you want me to answer?
No, go ahead.
So whenever you start, you're considered a recruit constable. And once you pass all the training, then you are a 4th class constable. And the highest you can go in constable is a 1st class constable. So it essentially takes a year to move up each class. So you are in a probationary period for your first year, and you are evaluated every year to get reclassed. So each rank in class, you go up in salary. And you are evaluated by your supervisors. There's no necessary quotas or anything like that. I think that's just on job performance and how you're doing and how you're adapting. We don't have set quotas of how many tickets you have to give a month or anything like that. But that's how it works. So every year you move up a rank. So with Peel, as a recruit constable, if you graduate the police college and you get a mark of over 90%, you're eligible to be reclassed from 4th class to 3rd class 6 months earlier. So it's a bit of an incentive for our recruits to do well at the police college and get good grades. And, it is a big difference in their pay. So most people are usually able to obtain that. And then in terms of sergeant, so sergeant is another rank. Sergeant would be like a supervisor of a constable. And you do have to go for promotion. You have to pass an exam and put in an application to go for promotion. It's just not something that's automatically given. And that usually comes once you've been on the job for, I would say, 12 to 15 years. That's usually when people start thinking about that promotion. So it sounds like you have a lot of good experience that you can bring to the job. So maybe we can chat after about that. And that's awesome.
Hi, my name is Sonia. I took a course on police powers where we had a debate stating that a lot of male police officers are a bit hesitant to go on a call with a female during domestic calls. Recently, I had a conversation with different services in regards to this topic, and some of them also agreed with this situation. As female police officers, have you guys ever came across a situation like that? And if so, how do you guys deal with that?
Well, I'll put that to either Rashonda or Taj, because you guys are new on that. You guys are frontline. And have you guys experienced that on a call, a domestic call?
Or any call even, just somebody being hesitant to go to a call with you because you're female? No?
I'll be honest and say, for me, and just because I'm close with my platoon, they see me in the weight room. I talk and I hang out with them, and even in training with our trainer, Mr. Mallon, he would set out weights over here, and then he would say, no, you go over there with the guys. So for me, but that played in my favor when it came to strength. However, I still don't mind, and I enjoy going with some of my platoon mates because I might have the strength when it comes to the muscle, but some people I can't, you might relate to a situation better than I can. So I might step in, and I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I went to a call MHA, which is Mental Health Act, with I think he was 19. He was a foreign student, and he was arguing with his, I don't know what it's called, homestay. And I walked in, and the lady looked at me. I think we were wearing short sleeves. She looked at me and she said, not you. It's going to get aggressive. And at first I was insulted, and I'm thinking, well, what did I say or do? But she just looked at me and said, okay, maybe because and she did, and it's on video now because we catch video, and she's like, so not you. Said,
because you were too muscular?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she said, nah, not you. And so one of my coworkers, Nora, she came in, and she's not as thick, I would say. She walked in and they said, we talked to you. And immediately the young man calmed down, he related to it, and I just stepped back. And I knew my role was not to interject and be a part of that. So sometimes it plays, sometimes you have coworkers that would say, I will take you in a heartbeat because you have the strength. And other times people would say, you know what? I'd rather go with Nora because she can calm things down. So it's just about what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
A lot of time people look at fitness, but it's not necessarily what you need. I'd say 80% of the call doesn't require strength at all. You have to be able to communicate. So those guys that are saying, I won't go with a female because of her strength, sometimes you're actually stronger than they are in certain situations. So don't let that discourage you.
And I'm glad this kind of conversation got brought up because I think it's an important one to have that I'm not going to lie, you still have to prove yourself as a female on this job. A lot has changed since you started, Camille, and even for me, I've seen a change, and it's very positive, and I never feel like I'm not welcomed at work or that people judge me because I'm a female. But there's still that little bit where you got to prove yourself and you got to try a little bit harder. So I don't want people talking about me and saying, oh, I don't want Rebecca coming to my call because she can't handle herself, right? So you got to prove yourself. So when you are going to those calls with your platoon mates, you want to prove that you can show up, that if shit hits the fan, that you're going to get in there right with them and help them out, right? And then slowly, like Taj, you're new, you're going out on your own. So your platoon mates will slowly start to see, okay, Taj is good. She can handle herself at a call, and they're not going to mind going. You fit in as a team, right? So it does take a while to fit in with the platoon. It's really important that you fit in. You want to make sure that you get along with everybody and you're a team player, and that your shift can rely on you when you're going to a call. So I think in those cases, that person that they may be speaking of maybe wasn't fitting in and maybe wasn't proving themselves on the job, right? I wouldn't want to go to a call, male or female, with somebody who's incompetent. I can tell you right now that I've worked with some males that are incompetent, and I'd rather go with so-and-so officer. It's not so much a gender thing. You just got to always show that you're willing and you're able to get in there when it's a bad day, bad call. So.
And me being a smaller female, I've been to a call with my coach officer where we did have to go hands-on, and I was just right in there with him executing that arrest, right? So that showed him a lot too, and after that he had a talk with me, and he's like, good job, like you didn't step back, you didn't let me struggle, you were right in there with me executing that arrest, and he's like, I'm proud of you. So you do have to prove yourself, and there have been domestic calls that I've been to where the female has refused to talk to the male officers, and they're like, I want to talk to her. I don't want to talk to you. Because it's more of a comfortability thing, right? Like some females just want to talk to a woman about their issues. So, especially different cultures too, right? South Asian culture, there's a lot of females who aren't comfortable with a male officer, maybe victims of a sex assault. They may not want to speak with a male officer. So again, it's being adaptable, working with your platoon and whoever you're at the call with, and saying, okay, you know what? You deal with this person, I'll deal with that person. I've
been disrespected at calls because I'm a female. Some traditional males only want to speak to another male officer, especially in certain cultures. And you know what? That's fine. Why am I going to sit there, unless it's just me at the call, but if I'm with my partner, I'm not going to sit there and argue with this guy. My ego's not going to be hurt because he's offended because I'm a female. It is what it is, right? So he can speak with that male and I'll go speak with the female. So you just, again, goes back to being adaptable and figuring out how the call works and every call is different. So, but you got to prove yourself as a female. And for me, that was something that enticed me about this job, is challenging to prove that I can do this. I could be a police officer. I could uphold the law. I could go out there and arrest people. And I liked that aspect of the job. And that's what goes back to understanding what the job entails. And it's not just community policing. It's not just going out there and going and meeting the public and taking pictures at, basketball games and things like that. That's a really important part of our organization, but the main part is going out there, being on the front line, arresting people, doing investigations. That's the stuff you need to be prepared for. So, yeah. Any other questions? Back there. Oh. I love all these questions. This is good.
I have a question about driving. I know you guys said that you need to have your G license to be a constable, and on the website and stuff, they'll check your if you've gotten tickets and stuff like that. But is there a certain length of time you should be driving for before you apply? Because technically, if you just got your license and you apply, you don't have enough time to show driving history, right?
Yeah. So driving, we ask you about your driving experience on your application to see what kind of conditions you've driven in. It is important to have that experience driving, maybe even in a big city too, because you could have your license for 4 years and not really use your car and drive. So you are tested. Police vehicle operations is one of the training components at the police college as well as with Peel. So you do get trained to drive the cruiser and how to do emergency calls and go through traffic and go through lights and stuff like that. Intersections, I should say, not running red lights. You have to stop first. But anyway, you are trained in that. So some people are more comfortable with it than others, but if it's something that you're thinking may hinder you, why not go and take an extra driving course, right, to get that experience? And driving in different weather conditions as well, right? As a police officer, just because there's a huge snowstorm doesn't mean that we stop driving and we can't go to calls anymore, right? So so try and get as much of that experience as you can. It'll really help you, I think, because when you're driving to a call, you're multitasking, right? You're in the cruiser, you're on the radio, you're driving, looking at the traffic ahead of you, you're reading your computer, listening for updates in the calls. So there's a lot going on, and over time, I think you learn those skills as how to get to calls really well and multitask and do that properly. But if it's something that you're worried about, why not take that extra little bit to cover that off, right? So it's not an issue.
Hello, my name is Cassandra. So my question was just more so about the interview process. I know it's important to involve the core values when you're answering the questions, and then really be specific with the situation, technique, and the outcome of what you did. Is there any other tips that you would give for the interview questions on when we're answering them?
I would say that if you're in the process or you're thinking about becoming a police officer, start drawing on experiences that you've had that stick out in your mind of maybe a conflict that you've had with a coworker or a customer, or things that have happened within your work or life experience. Just jot them down and keep a log of that, so that if you do get an interview, you can start going back and thinking about those situations and laying them out the way you said. The way you said it was great. You may have heard of the STAR-L format for answering interview questions. If you stick to that, usually your answer comes out pretty well. So that's the situation, the task, the action, and the result, as well as what you learned from the situation. So if you, take those examples and answer those with that, I think it'll come out really well. So just start thinking about things, because for every service does their interviews differently. For us, we do one main interview. It's our in-depth interview. We're going to touch base on your personal history form, all the information that's in there, getting into why you want to be a police officer, what's your knowledge of our organization and policing in general. And then later on, we also go into behavioral specific questions. So if you look up sort of what the competencies are that are desirable ones for police officers, you can start kind of writing those down and then thinking of situations that would apply to that and keeping track of all those things. I think that would really help you prepare. Yeah.
So we're all humans, we make mistakes, and while we're young, we're still learning. While we're older, we're still learning. Are there points in the interview process after you apply, like people in the family that have been involved with police, is there points then where you get to like justify and explain yourself without being skipped over in the interview process?
Do you mean in terms of mistakes that you've made or family members?
Yeah, both myself or family members, both. Like when you're young and 18, you work at a job, you might not like it, you might just leave. Sometimes you not necessarily burn bridges, but it's just some things that need to be justified. Would there be a point in the interview process that you would be able to?
Yeah, so the first part before your interview, after you pass fitness, is a personal background questionnaire. Most police services do this, and it's just a questionnaire that's completed online. And it's just asking you a bit more questions in depth about your work history, education, things like, have you ever been late for work before? Have you ever gotten disciplined at work? Drug use, criminal records, things like that. It gives you a little bit of opportunity to explain yourselves at that point. And then it's more information for the recruiter when we actually do interview you. So if there is something in your past that has been negative, that's okay. Those are life experiences that can shape you. Don't look at it as a negative thing. These are things that you can learn from and be able to explain in an interview. My advice would be just to be as honest as you can about everything when you're filling those in, because it looks bad if a recruiter finds out information in a background that you haven't disclosed. At that point, your file would most likely be closed because you're just being deceitful or not being as open and honest as we want you to be. And be consistent when you are answering those, because each service does have a very similar form, and we do share information, so just make sure that you're being consistent with your answers. You're not answering with one service, no, I've never done drugs before, and then you answered one, well, I did cocaine in grade 12. We're going to find that out. So everything can be explained, and it's how well you do at explaining what you've learned from the situation that can help you move forward. So we've all made mistakes. Every one of us up here has.
Not me.
Well, you're perfect.
Angel. Yeah, tons of mistakes.
So my question is touching on the interview process. You were discussing about using core values as examples for experiences you've been in. Would there be a time limit for those? So if you had an experience for communication, for example, would it be recommended to have something that has occurred within the last 1 year, or could it be 3 years ago?
I would try and keep it as current as you can, within a couple of years, I would say. If you can't think of anything that's happened recently, I guess I would draw upon those experiences in the past, but try and keep it as current as you can, I would say. Yeah.
So I've been with Sentinel Security for the past 2.5 years. I started out in events and hospital industry. So now we're working in the hotel and events industry. So now we're in the hospital. Part of our training, we got in-depth training to deal with mentally challenged patients, because those are most of the patients that we deal with at a hospital. Whilst there, we had a couple of close calls with patients, but this was like in a controlled area. We had doctors and nurses who could come in and assist us at any moment, right? Does Peel Police, do you provide training when you go out? Because we've seen the videos during our training where police officers deal with really violent and agitated patients on the streets. Do you provide specific training apart from training school to deal with these kind of patients? Usually I would see when there's an incident, like 4 or 5. So what kind of support do you get? Do you get while from the street?
You want to talk about MCERT maybe, or?
We do MHA training, yeah.
Yeah.
So once you go to OPC, this is after you've been hired. You have to attend Ontario Provincial College. you take courses where they address dealing with people that suffer from mental health issues and stuff like that. When you come back to Peel, we also have an additional program that you take that will also support you with dealing with people with mental health, knowing how to talk to them, de-escalating situations, stepping back without resorting to violence. So a lot of times, like I said, we use our communication, de-escalating situations, and you are supported with the additional training. So again, not only OPC, but we also offer our in-house that is mandatory for all new recruits to take on this MHA training. Taj could speak a bit. You just had it again?
Yeah. I just had it last week, and it was a 4-day long program training. And they taught us a lot about de-escalation, and we had different scenarios where, you know, someone's armed with a knife and how we talk them down. So it's actually very helpful. Yeah.
And in Peel, we created a new unit. I think it's been a couple of years now, actually. Mobile Crisis Emergency Response Teams. So this is a unit where officers are paired up with crisis workers. So they're not police officers, they're health professionals, and they work shift work and they ride around and they respond with uniformed officers to mental health calls. So if we do get a priority call where somebody we know is suffering from a mental illness, we still have to go because there's always the risk of, you know, danger. We have to make sure the situation's safe, but they come to assist us. And I can tell you right now that it helps. I had a female who, she was banging, there was a bunch of townhouses. She was basically at the back of a townhouse smashing property on somebody's back porch. They didn't know who this lady was. So they obviously called us. They were inside watching her. They had locked their doors. So we got there, and this MR car, we call it, mobile response. So it's the crisis team came as well. So officers are there trying to chat with her. You know, she's not armed with anything, but I mean, there's obviously weapons nearby that she could use. There's broken glass. And she just basically was not having anything to do with us. She wasn't listening to us. So the crisis worker came in. So they're dressed in plain clothes. They do have a vest, but it does say crisis worker on it. And she was able to strike up a conversation with this female. So we backed off at that point, making sure everything is safe still. But she was able to chat with her and come to us as officers, and based on her medical professional skills, say that this person is in a state of psychosis and we're not going to be able to talk this person down. So perfect. We tried. She made an assessment at that point, and we knew that we had to go hands-on at that point to apprehend this person under the Mental Health Act, because we could stand there for 6 hours and this person's not going to change. So that gave us a lot of tools to be able to say, okay, you know what, I'm confident I can go hands-on with this person now. We've tried de-escalating it other ways, it's not going to work. And she had already developed a relationship with her, so she was able to calm her down, and we did it without any issues at all. So this is the benefit of having that crisis worker there, because sometimes people in those mental health crises don't want to talk to a police officer. And it's nice to have that professional opinion there to say whether this person is suicidal or not, whether we should apprehend them or not. And they usually will accompany them to the hospital, and then it saves officers from having to stay there, uniform patrol officers from having to stay at the hospital if they don't need to be there. So that's a great program that we have. It's really been helpful. And so as an officer on the road, to know that you have a crisis worker who's coming to that call with you just prepares you a lot better to deal with that call and be confident that it's going to end well.
And just to touch on what you said about calls, and you said sometimes there are 5, 6, or multiple officers there. So one thing, there's strength in numbers, but more importantly, if we're there to deal with somebody and I show up and they can't relate to me, and she shows up and they don't relate to this person, and she shows them, they're like, hey, I want to talk to her. Now we're better able to build a rapport, maybe get that person's attention, and the rest of us will step back while you talk to that person. So we're there to support each other, but we're also there to figure out which one of us can talk to this person, which one of us has a life experience that can relate to this person or experience that with a family member, and now we can better help that person. Okay.
My name's Sarah. I guess I have a question for you too. In I think you said 18 years and 32 years on the job in various different, positions, and and whatnot, what would you say, if you had to pick one thing, would be the most positive aspect or most rewarding challenge you've experienced being a police officer in all of those roles?
Well, I think for me, like I said, there's a couple, but one of the pluses, like I mentioned before, was like being the first female on the emergency response team at the airport. That was pretty rewarding in itself there. And I think right now, my current role right now in recruiting, just being able to have that flexibility where I'm able to connect with females and just help them along the way on their journey, and then just to see the end goal where they actually get hired and and they're able to start their career. Because these two over here, like these are prime example right here. Like just watching these ladies, like I said, Taj, when I was one of the there for the info session when Taj first came through, and to see her from that point and coming in for her fitness and just struggling at the start, but then being able to succeed and finish past the prep test, and now seeing her on the road in her uniform. And now tonight going out there, by herself, it's very rewarding just to see that, I was a part of their journey to where they are now. So that's, for me, very rewarding.
Yeah, and for me, being in recruiting has really brought me back to how I felt when I first got hired and was in the process. And I think sometimes as police officers, you forget how you felt. You go on the job and you do the job for so long, and you forget kind of sometimes why you joined the job, what that passion was all about. So sitting in and seeing people get hired and seeing guys and girls getting emotional on that day, just like I did when I got hired, that's been really rewarding for me lately. And in terms of the other aspects of the job, I think not one specific thing, but just little things like somebody coming up and just thanking you for doing what you're doing. Pulling somebody over and giving them a ticket. If you can get the person to say thank you after, then you're doing a good job, right? But it's little things, driving by and somebody waves at you, right? Little kids like so happy to see you and see the lights on the cruiser. And there's so many negative things right now involving police that it's easy to get disgruntled and not want to do this job. So it's really important to focus on those little things. And there are really good people out there who do appreciate us and what we do. And you have to focus on that and not the negative things. And I think if you do that, then you'll do well in this career. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah as well. We unknowingly sat right next to each other. I just have a question for whoever wants to answer, I suppose. In terms of being in the application process, I know each service has their own minimum requirements of what everybody needs in order to submit their application. I was wondering if you guys could provide us with any sort of above and beyonds that we could do to put on our resume to make us, even that more desirable as a candidate.
I would say, I think I touched base on this a little bit earlier, but continuously doing things to make yourself better, always learning or doing something new. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but maybe you're taking an online course. Maybe you're exploring a new volunteer opportunity. Every little thing to just show that you're continuously working for it. You're not just going to submit your application and just sit back and wait for things to get rolling, right? So we mentioned about the work. It doesn't have to be police related, but Sentinel security sounds like it's an amazing opportunity for people. And that's going to give you some great skills, and maybe think about some other things education-wise or volunteering that you can do to just show you're continuously working on it, because those are the files that stand out to us. Yeah. Thinking about what the job requires and what you can do to make yourself better.
so my name's Areen. I just wanted to ask a question about the vision. Can it be aided or does it have to be non-assisted vision?
The requirements are on the OACP website, of what the requirements are for vision. It can be aided to a certain degree, and you can have had laser surgery as well. So if you go on their website, it's all laid out there. Yeah.
My name's Archana. So a while back, I went to like an information session from like my school in Ryerson. Like, so there was like officers. Sorry, yeah, there were officers from like different like police services, and they said that knowing multiple languages is like an asset to applying. So basically, my question is because you guys do Brampton and Mississauga, like which like specific languages might be like better than other languages, because like maybe there's people who speak that language who don't speak English more so than others in the area.
Do one of you ladies want to speak to it, or Camille?
Well, it's again we mentioned that like with Peel, like we're so diverse. There's a wide range of languages that people speak. So it's just being able to come to the table. Like again, that's making yourself more competitive, having a second language, because then it's now you being able to assist in case there's any situations where we require an interpreter, that we can reach out to you and you can be an interpreter for that particular call. But yeah, we have so many different cultures there that
any second language.
Any second language is is an asset.
Do you speak another language, Josh?
So I'm learning my 5th language. So
oh, no big deal. She's learning 5.
I'm constantly like going to calls and just helping out, because the dispatch is always going to go over the air and say, can we have an Urdu speaking officer? Can we have a Tamil speaking officer? You know, all the languages, there's so many different calls and there's so much diversity in our community that you're going to be required for translating. Yeah.
It's definitely an asset for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, you have the dolphin.
But I also speak a little bit of Japanese. So imagine me showing up to a call to help out with Japanese. They haven't called for it yet, thankfully, but I also speak Japanese.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to touch on one thing. Obviously, I'm not a recruiter. I'm here only been here a year and a half, but this is my recruiter right here. I've learned so much from her. And I know Sarah, I think it's Sarah, middle Sarah, mentioned, how do we stand out? You all have the basic and stuff like that. I'll just tell you one thing. When you go to information session, and this is, again, learning from Constable Chambers here. If I went to information session, we all had the exact same resume. How it would stand out is if I have a question, good afternoon, my name is Rashonda. I literally stood up. I stood out. So now they will remember, oh, okay, that person there asked a question. She stood up. I know her name. You want to present yourself a little bit more. Even when you ask a question, and every one I answered, I would, yes, ma'am, no, sir. And they're like, oh, everybody else just says no. So these little things will make you stand out. The next information session you go to, stand up and ask a question. Everyone's eyes will be on you, and now you're competition. Because they're thinking, oh, Sarah stood up and she said, no, sir, or yes, sir. These little things are what's going to help you with your resume. You might not have what somebody else have, but the fact that you showed that little bit of respect, now they're going to think, okay, this is a paramilitary organization. She already has the first step of what we're looking for. So just they don't
even if you come in for your fitness testing, like I said, we're in the gym, we're watching the applicants. You can see how people interact, right? If you come in and you just grab your stuff, go sit on the wall, go on your phone, right? You're not interacting with other people who are there, who are interested in the same thing that you're interested in. The opportunity is there to talk to people. So those people that are stepping outside the box and talking to somebody they've never met before, we see that, and those are the kind of skills that we want somebody to have as a police officer, because you have to be able to talk to people, anybody, and people you don't know, and just be adaptable. So just little things like that, like what you said, Ro, those are the things that stand out to us. How you present yourself, what you're wearing, when you're going to these information sessions. You're going to stand out if you're in a suit, because there's going to be some people there who are going to be in a sweatshirt and jeans, right? So Does it make them less interested? No. Maybe they have more competitive qualities than you do, but you're standing up and you're showing your initiative, right, from the very start. So, good.
So now we're going to remember you.
There you go.
There you go.
So my question, I'm not old by any means, but I don't have any like background in like school with policing or like security. But I was just wondering, like, I heard there's like a cadet program, so if that would be a good option, or would you just like apply for the OACP and go through that route?
Okay, so you said you're not old.
Uh-oh.
So, well, I'll just say this, like our cadet program is for anyone who's between the age of 19 to 20, call it 22,
24,
23, 24, yeah. So if you're not in between that age group, then you'll be applying for the recruit constable. Yeah. Okay.
So the cadet program, for those of you that don't know, it's like an apprenticeship program, 30 months. You get hired on and you're wearing a uniform, but without obviously all the fun accessories on it. And it's like an apprenticeship, so you go to a platoon at a division for 3 months, and then the next 3 months you would go to the fraud bureau and work there. So you're getting exposed to all the different areas within policing. When you're on a platoon, you have the opportunity to go out and do ride-alongs with officers. It's a great way for you to showcase who you are and prove yourself, because you are evaluated. And if you are successful in the program, there's been many cadets who have been promoted to constable after a year, after their 30 months is up. And it's just a natural progression. You don't have to go through the whole application process. You just go for your final interview and then you basically get hired on as a constable. So it's a good stepping stone for somebody who's younger, who's interested in this career. You get a salary, you start earning your pension. So it's a really awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
But again, it's just for younger people right now. So
yeah, 90% of our cadets go on to become constables. So it's a great learning piece there. And you look at it as well as that you're soaking up in the 30 months that you're a cadet and you're in different areas of the service. You're learning everything about that particular area. So by the time you're ready to become a recruit constable, and now you're out there, you're in the classroom with, let's say somebody's brand new who just got hired and they're sitting beside you, and today you're learning about note taking. You're like, leading the class because you already know how to do that. Yeah. Because when you were at a division, well, part of your training is that every day you have to do your notes. Yeah. So you're now so far ahead of all these new brand recruits that are just starting out. So it is a great stepping stone into policing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, great. So on behalf of the panel and myself, we would like to thank you guys very much for joining us today. I think this was very informative, and we're hoping that we'll be around for a bit too. If you want to, maybe there was a question that you wanted to ask but you didn't feel comfortable asking in this setting, we'll be here for a little bit, and come and see us. We're going to get everybody's contact information so that we can follow up with you guys just to see where you are in regards to your journey, and if we need to help you and anything at all, please reach out to us. And I can't speak for Rebecca, but for myself, I'm not a 9-to-5 person. So if it's a case where I've made contact with you and you have a question and you send me a text and you're looking like, it's 4:00, she's probably done work, whatever it is. 8:00, if I'm sitting at home and I have nothing on the go, I will reply to you. Okay, 9:00 at night, I just wanted to, you have time for a quick phone call? I will make the time. If I have the time, I will make the time for you. So that's the piece that I enjoy doing, is that I'm there to help you along your journey.
Yeah, definitely. Same for me too. I will always get back to somebody who tries to get in touch with me, and I encourage anybody who makes that connection. Sometimes just having that phone call with somebody, an officer, and gauging where you're at, what you bring to the job. Maybe we can give you some advice or tell you are ready, or maybe you should go and do this first. It really just gets that connection going, and those people who do stay in touch with us stand out to us. So take advantage of that, right? Any information you can get is going to help you in the application process.
And that's what the FIT team, that's what we do as the FIT team. Like, again, no other service does that. So you might have your application in with Toronto, you're not successful. You're not going to have no idea why. You're just going to be like, apply again in 6 months. And you walk away like, okay, I don't know what I need to improve on. At least with us, we're telling you, okay, listen, your fitness is off, or, you need to work on this piece here, whatever. So we're in contact with you. We're letting you know what's going on. So at least that way, you walk away, you still feel empowered that, I want to continue my journey. And so that's something that the FIT team that we have available to females.
Yeah, and all the recruiters in Peel, not just dealing with female files, but the other officers, recruiters in our office, they always give feedback to people. So I think that if somebody has put the effort in to apply and gotten to the point where they've passed fitness and they're, they've done an interview, maybe they're not successful, why not give them some constructive criticism and some advice on things that they can work on? I always provide that no matter what. Not everybody is receptive to it. Some people get very offended when they don't move forward in the process, and some people take what I say and they're staying in touch with me regularly and apply back, and then they're successful later on. So at Peel, I think every recruiter will give you that feedback for sure. Even if you're not successful in like the psych portion, we can't always disclose why you were unsuccessful or deemed unsuitable in the psych assessment, but we'll tell you whether that was the reason or not, or whether it was something that came up in your background. Again, with the background, we can't always disclose what came up because it could involve a family member or something that we can't disclose that information to you, but we'll try our best to give you that information and to help you improve. So, good.
Let's take a few moments just to say thank you, right? We learned so much today, starting from confidence, how to be confident, how to set yourself up the best way for success. We talked about confidence, we talked about endurance, we talked about fitness, how fitness is so important. So truly, from our side, thank you so much for your time. Constable Ro, Constable Taj, Constable Rebecca, and Constable Camille. Honestly, thank you so much, and let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
It was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.